what's your kind of general maintenance recommendations for ovens of all types? Just is there anything you in particular recommend to do every month or 6 months or year, anything like that?
Keeping it decently clean every 6 months or so to clean it out is good in general. As far as a lot of other things, there's really not a lot of upkeep that one can do. I would say probably the type of oven, and in this case it would be a range or a cooktop, is if it's gas. With gas, especially the surface burners, there's a few things that need to happen for it to spark and then light and then keep a good flame. So on most cooktop or gas ranges, you typically have like a burner cap, which is that kind of, just circle looking black thing on there that the flame goes around. Those, I would say 95% of the time, can just be taken off. And then under there, you'll see a thing under the burner cap. It's got a bunch of ridges in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the cap's on top of that, as the flame comes up, it goes through all those ridges, and that's kind of how it's evenly spread. Over time, you can have grease build up and food build up, and if some of those ridges are blocked, you'll notice that your flame isn't even. So if you have where part of your flame just isn't coming up,
Mm-hmm.
typically you can just get in there with like a hard bristled brush. It doesn't have to be metal; it could be like a kind of hard plastic brush, and clean it up real good. Down inside the hole is the orifice where the gas actually comes out. And these holes where the gas comes out, I mean, it's super tiny. You can fit a sewing needle in it for the
Right.
most part. And so you can have a single grain of salt get in there and cause it not to even light. So you want to check that and, get a needle, kind of run it in and out of that hole. And then the final thing, on the piece with all the ridges, you'll notice where your little igniter is. Sometimes that can get kind of grease build-up, so it's not making contact and sparking to light correctly. And then right beside where that igniter is, there's a little tiny hole. So as the gas comes up through the orifice, it hits the burner cap and then it spreads out. One of the places, it goes through this little tiny hole where that igniter is, and then it'll spark and ignite. So if you have any buildup in there, that gas can't get to the igniter, it's going to have a really hard time lighting. So you always want to make sure all that's clean and clear of any debris. And I would say that's pretty good upkeep, and it could definitely save you a service call.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any sort of, I know with sort of microwaves, we've recommended maybe putting like a cup of vinegar in there and stuff to sort of steam that up and help with any removal. Is that good for ovens as well?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of ovens will even have kind of like a flex clean or like a steam clean,
Mm-hmm.
where the bottom cover for the inside cavity of the oven is kind of recessed down a little, and so you can actually fill it up with water and then start a flex clean or a steam clean cycle. So even if you don't have that feature, you can still kind of reproduce it in a way of, getting a large pan with water, getting your oven really hot for say 30 minutes or an hour, and then getting that steam to kind of loosen everything up, and then getting in after and cleaning it. And it's a little bit more of a mess, but it's a lot safer than potentially blowing a fuse on the oven with a self clean.
Yeah, definitely. Or, pretty much pulling a muscle with the amount of scrubbing it takes when it's dry.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because when stuff's on there and then you're baking at hundreds of degrees multiple times, yeah,
Yeah.
it's you
Just
almost want to get a grinder in there sometimes to get some of that stuff off.
it's a permanent fixture at that point. Unfortunately, they're not quite like cast iron pans where it's almost like, okay, no problem. The more the better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people are tempted sometimes to even put the tinfoil to line the bottom of it. And
Okay.
in most owner's manual, it'll tell you not to do that, because that tinfoil, if it's in there long enough and the oven gets hot enough, it basically fuses with the bottom cavity of the oven, and
Wow.
then it just looks awful. Like, you're not going to get it off. And if you
Yeah.
do get it off, you're taking the paint with it. So it's going to look worse than when before you started. So
Yeah, it just becomes the oven.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
Oh,
much. Well, one thing I have had some luck with are those kind of non-stick mats, and they almost seem like kind of a plasticky, rubbery kind of deal. You would figure they would melt, but I personally use one of those,
hmm.
and it just pulls right out, and the stuff just wipes right off. So those are really good. You may, look at some of the reviews on some of those and pick one. I've had pretty good luck with those.
Fantastic. Yeah. So just non-stick oven mats, basically.
Mhm.